The money and banking course, as I told you, given my background, my orientation, I deal it with initially in a historical perspective. What is money? That is my first topic. So, money duniya mein tha nahi, money was not there in this world. Money was invented at a point of time. And after that invention, initial invention, it went to many changes. So, I deal with this course, I begin with a historical perspective on money, brief one. This will be my first topic, and now I come to more complex money forms or synthetic money that exists like cards, etc. I close it there, the first topic. So, I start with the very old times when money was invented. So, this is more of a just the way you saw my economic problems course. I deal with a historical perspective, world view of development. The Indian economic course, first topic. I went to a world view comparative study of various countries with broad data. Similar to that, I do a kind of a background story to money. Then I come to money in a country like India, and then it becomes very Indian. And Indian in the sense, many of the Indian things are also known worldwide. So, then when you hear about certain things which is happening in Europe, in North America, elsewhere, you would be able to appreciate that, because those are the similar things we have in India too. So, I go into more traditional monetary economics, etc. So, topic 1 that I will start discussing today, what is money? Now, what is money is how people identify money is the cash they have in their pocket. So, they can bring out notes, they can bring out coins, which is formally known as currency. Money, if you ask people money, sir, money cash nikal denge. Currency, what we call currency in economics. Currency consists of two items, notes and coins, and this is what they identify as money. But later you will see, in a macroeconomic context, money is just not currency, much more than that, much wider concept, much deeper. It has immense significance for a country. Just नहीं कितना cash आपके pocket में है, वो finance minister interested नहीं है खाली, the Reserve Bank governor is interested in much more, in many more things which come under money. So, I am talking about from the point of view of the finance minister, the Reserve Bank governor, what he is concerned with, which is called monetary economics essentially, which is also part of macroeconomics. So, I do not go into a banker's jobs, like a banker what you do when you work for Citibank. I will not get into that. That you will learn if you get a job, some other course may teach you. First of all, in economics, the starting point is when you are talking about a variable, you want to know whether it is a stock variable or a flow variable. For instance, you talk about income. Income changes every moment of time. It is generated in the economy. You work for somebody, somebody produces something and sells it, income is generated. It is a very flow variable. But money is such a thing, even if you take currency as a narrow definition of money, which is notes and coins in India, Indian notes and coins, you will see Reserve Bank will give you an exact number, how much is that there. So, it is very much money, therefore, is a stock variable, like capital. Take an example of physical capital, houses, part of capital. If you want to know at any point of time on 30th of July 2012, what is the stock of houses, you will get an exact number, how many buildings are there in the country. It is not a flow variable, it does not change every moment. it takes time to change. So, money is a stock variable, the first thing to remember, like capital. It is given at a point of time as a data. All right. A very related variable in economics, as you will take more and more economics courses, advanced economics courses, a very relative variable to money, which often you will find in books, which I found in books, is that the papers on monetary economics on money, related with money, often gets into the variable called, or another item called wealth. Often they get into a discussion on wealth. So, they talk about money, at the same time they are talking about wealth, it creates a confusion. Well, wealth is something much broader than money. Wealth consists of both money and non-money assets. Asset is what? Which is a valuable, which you can sell off tomorrow and get a return, a price in the market. That is called asset. So, when you say, sir, I have some assets, what are the assets that you can sell? You can talk about property, you can talk about gold, you can talk about jewelry, you can talk about shares even, financial assets, you can talk about many things. So, when you talk about wealth, it is a basket of money and non-money assets. All right. So, there should not be any confusion between money and wealth. Money is part of wealth, but wealth is just not money. Wealth is much bigger than that. But in this course, we may come across from time to time an inference or a connection drawn with wealth, but we are not going to talk about wealth. In advanced monetary economics courses, we do bring in wealth. Even consumption function is a function of wealth, just not money, people say, not income. Keynesian consumption function, if you remember, amount a person consumes depend upon, or even at the macro level, is a function of income. So, you have the concepts of marginal propensity to consume, but if you go into much deeper, wider consumption functions, you will see they would say, no, 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 we are just not interested in the income, which give rise to kind of the money people have at their disposal. We are interested more into what kind of a property does he have, because that also influences his consumption habits. So, consumption becomes a function of just not income, consumption becomes a function of wealth. And as soon as you say that, you can imagine so many other variables you are bringing in. How many share prices you have, shares you have, bonds you have, property you have, jewelry you have, all determine the amount of consumption. So, the consumption function changes very much, all right. But in this course, we will talk about money, because it is called money and banking. We will not talk about wealth, but we will sometimes connect with wealth in order to explain certain things. Is that clear? Okay. Now, as I said that if money is part of wealth, what do economists think money should consist of? In the most narrow definition, what economists do when they put wealth, and suppose they are counting a number, a value, rupee value, they would put typically currency in it, nothing else. Kitna currency hai desh mein? Either you are holding it, or a company is holding it, or whoever. Currency is what? Two parts, notes and coins. All right. But as soon as you start looking into that narrow definition of money, you realize, sir, in today's world we have banks, where we have this opportunity now not to keep all our money with ourselves as currency. We can put some of that currency and in the deposits, in the deposit accounts of a bank, maybe savings account, current account, fixed deposit account, recurring deposit account, whatever, we can put it there. So, are you saying all that money that I have is not part when you count my money? So, you can imagine the problem you are getting into. Initially you said currency, but now with banks around you, where you can go to the bank and deposit your cash, because that provides a safe avenue to protect your money, because suppose there is a dacoit tomorrow, a theft, all my money gone, I rather put some there and I keep something with myself at home. Some people have even lockers at home. So, they keep some of their money and non-money assets there. Some people have that habit. Some people do not keep any non-money asset at home, neither of course, not all money. They put them in bank lockers, bank accounts, etc. So, therefore, as soon as people start talking about it, then the definition of money widens. Aha, okay. Now, please bring in the checking accounts. In a Western country like Canada, USA, France, Germany, whatever, when you walk into a bank, you will realize they give you 5 times or 4 types of savings accounts. Itna differentiated products hai. Here, if you go to State Bank, you say, I want to open a savings account ek hi tarike hota hai, one type, you open a savings account. You go to a Western country, they will show you savings account, which type? My goodness, which type means? Okay, please read this pamphlet. एक पैम्फलेट आपको दे दिया, आप बैठे बैठे आधा घंटा निकाल गए, 1 घंटा निकाल गया, इतना डिफरेंशिएटेड है. So, what I am saying is that as soon as you open that definition and say it is not close to currency that we hold, then immediately it goes into checking accounts, because checking accounts are like near money, very close to money. It may not be with me, but tomorrow morning I go to the bank, write a check, get the money, or instead of paying you my electricity bill, rent, whatever, or sabji wala even, I can write a check to you. I do not need the cash, the purpose of the cash is served. So, checking accounts become very important. So, therefore, many people say when you define money, you please bring in the checking account deposits within the definition of money, just not currency. So, the definition starts as soon as you open it, starts many things slowly entering into the definition of money. All right. So, all Indian definitions of money I will give it to you. And as you can understand in my discussion, I must be looking at money in terms of, or rather, the basic question is, why should we at all talk about money? Why should we at all talk about currency or checking accounts or even non-checking accounts? Why should we talk about that? The reason is money serves a number of functions. It facilitates certain things. It helps me, if I hold money, to do certain things. The simplest one is what we learn in macroeconomics, the transaction demand for money. With money, I can transact goods. I can buy goods that I need. The simplest form, that the function that money has, which is a classical definition of a function of money. Keynes added 2 more functions, one very important ones to money. What we had a demand for money function, which later became known as the demand for money function, transaction demand, and what did Keynes add? Speculative demand, which did not exist in the classical model. And also there is one more demand for money function is there, which nobody pays any attention, called precautionary demand for money. I keep aside some money for my unforeseen, unexpected bad days, precautionary demand, for precautionary purposes. So, one is transaction purpose, one is the speculative purpose, another one the precautionary purpose. Now, these are the modern concepts of money, but if you go back into a historical book on the definition of money or development of money, you will see that the first thing they mention as the function of money, and that is why we need money, that is why we talk about currency as part of money, is that money serves one very important function. The most important one is that it is a medium of exchange. Medium means via media, through which you exchange things. You are selling shirts, all right. I am not selling anything that you want to buy. I am selling my knowledge of money and banking, and a shirt seller said, who cares about your knowledge of money and banking? I do not need it. Even if you give me 10 books, I do not need it, or your notes. I sell shirts because I have to buy vegetables in the evening before I go home. Ho gaya, transaction band. He is not interested in my money and banking notes, and I am interested in his shirts. He does not want to sell them to me. Now, what money does is that money serves as a medium of exchange. I hand over money to him, he happily gives the shirts to me, and he takes the money to the vegetable sellers in the evening, and he buys the vegetable, and the vegetable seller is happy to accept that money. But this money did not exist. It was invented to facilitate transactions. So, the most important function, or the oldest function of money, is that money is a medium of exchange. It serves the functions. If we talk about the functions, is that it serves as the medium of exchange. Serves as the medium of exchange. So, somebody, either a king or a queen or the old ministers, जो मुंशी बाबू हम लोग कहते थे हिंदी फिल्म में, कोई मिनिस्टर, मुंशी बाबू, कोई एक दिन मनी इन्वेंट किया था, भगवान जाने कितने साल पहले. Historic data suggests hundreds, thousands of years old money exists. They have found archaeological findings from underneath the ground or whatever, wherever. So, money, therefore, the most important and the oldest function that it has been serving is this function called medium of exchange. So, it facilitates transactions. Without money, how would transaction take place? We used to call that the barter system. We used to call that the barter system. Without money, earlier you had something called the barter system. What happened in barter? Just now I told you, goods against goods, goods against services were exchanged. A doctor, I need his services. So, the doctor says, what do you produce? I say shirts. Okay, I will write the medicine and the prescription, you give me 2 shirts, barter system. Then I go to somebody else, I need vegetables. So, I ask the vegetable seller, what do you need? He said, I am in need of shoes for my children. He said, I am a cobbler, I produce shoes. He said, good news, give me a pair of shoes of this size, I will give you the vegetables in return. All right. Then I go to, I am a cobbler, I go to a doctor, I said, then a shirt producer, then I go to somebody else like who produces bags, and he says, okay, I can give you 3 bags for 1 pair of shoes, he says. So, what is happening here is that there is always in a transaction an exchange rate, 2 shirts per pair of shoes, 3 a medical 1 prescription for 1 pair of shoe, some amount of vegetables for some pair of shoes. So, now every individual producer will develop multiple exchange rates in barter depending upon which item they are buying, with whom they are buying, and all are expressed in terms of physical quantity of goods. The problem is that it requires a coincidence of wants. You want something from me, I want something from you, then we have a barter transaction. If the coincidence of wants do not take place, then we cannot have an exchange. बहुत मुश्किल है. All right. So, in my notes I have a line like this: under barter, one requires double coincidence of wants. A lecturer will have to be a farmer in his class, will have to have a farmer in his class to be able to buy food from the latter in exchange for his lecturers. नहीं तो लेक्चरर भूखा मरेंगे, कोई फार्मर तो क्लास में बैठे नहीं है, तो हमको खाना किधर से मिलेगा? So barter transactions therefore involve what we call in economics a very high transaction costs. ये जो transaction होगा between you and me, between two parties, two people, is very high, because it requires double coincidence of wants, it requires multiple exchange rates to transact things, all right, and it becomes very difficult to remember, and all in physical quantities. Therefore, the money to function effectively, which people historically have realized, initially money was not that an efficient mode when even after it was invented. To money to function effectively as a medium of exchange, it must satisfy the following criteria. What are the criteria? Number one, I can take money to Jagdish and say, Jagdish, I want to buy. Jagdish says, money? ये किधर से मिला? किसका money है ये? क्या guarantee है ये मैं कल व्यवहार कर पाऊँगा? So it requires a standardization money. The money he carries, the money he carries, the money he carries, confusion, lack of confidence, and people won't be able to use money because people can refuse it. So money must be standardized in order to function effectively as a medium of exchange. Number one. Number two, it cannot be so even after it has been standardized that somebody out there who sells something very important, say a doctor or a lawyer, and say, I refuse to accept money. It cannot be like that. Money should be made acceptable to everybody. If somebody refuses to use money, then money cannot function well. So money should be widely accepted. Number two, quality or property it is required for money to function effectively as a medium of exchange. Third, भी होता है problem. Money must be divisible to make these easy to make the change. Like I want to buy half a kg of something, but the price is per kg. So I should be able to provide the money for half a kg, which may involve some notes and some coins. If you don't have the coin system or you don't have the notes of smaller denomination, it's very difficult to make the transactions. In India, you must have seen one thing has happened lately, that the money of smaller denomination have disappeared. Many of the money which was in notes now don't exist, they are in coin form, and it's very difficult to carry all that coin, 5 rupee coin, 2 rupee coin, etc., 1 rupee coin. So often there is a rounding off going on at the shops when you buy. This rounding off you will see if you, particularly if you visit the big shops, either the food eating places or the clothes stores or whatever. The bill comes to like 451, round off to 450, because 1 rupiah coin, the change may not be available. All right. So money should be divisible to make the change which should be acceptable. So in smaller denomination. Suppose I want only 250 grams of something which requires some coins, not 1 kg which is 10 rupees easy, but 250 grams to 2 rupee 50 paise I need. Ho gaya? Achha. The fourth point that you should remember for money to function as an effective medium of exchange, the fourth point is it must be easy to carry. Just now I told you that the Indian system, monetary system, has made many notes converted into coins, it has become difficult to carry. So money should be easy to carry. ये ना हो money लेकर आप जब बाजार जा रहे, like housewife going to बाजार, पीछे पीछे एक कूली भी आ रहा है, उसके सिर के ऊपर इतना बड़ा एक टोकरी, उसके अंदर मनी लेके, ये भी तो हो सकता है, इतना हैवी है, हाउसवाइफ तो नहीं तो पागल हो जाएंगे वो मनी कैरी करके, 10 बार जाना होगा एक शॉपिंग के लिए, ग्रोसरी के लिए. So money should be easy to carry. It's very important property to function as an effective medium of exchange. It sounds common sense, but these things have developed, remember, they have evolved over time. They didn't develop over time. Then the final point, which is very important to me, all these things are more or less acceptable. Money must not deteriorate quickly. एक मनी रुपया जो मेरा प्रॉब्लम होता है, थोड़ा बारिश में मॉइस्चर में इतना ख़राब हो गया, थोड़ा टूट गया इधर, और शॉप में जाके बहुत बार मेरा हुआ है, सर ये नोट फटा हुआ है, ये नहीं लूँगा. अरे मेरे पास तो और है नहीं, कल दे देंगे, जान पहचान हो तो बताएंगे कल दे देंगे. ये deterioration of notes I have faced often, and it cannot function effectively as a medium of exchange. It should be made in a way so that the quality is good, it doesn't deteriorate. And if the notes have deteriorated, they should be withdrawn and replaced by fresh currency by the central bank of the country. You know the central bank, I am coming to that. In any country, in every country, all banks have a boss called the central bank. What is the name of the central bank in India? RBI, yes. Every country has that. In fact, that is the sole authority of money issue. Banks are not, government is not. Even individuals of course are not. Even government doesn't issue money. Central bank does it. It's a very specialized job. I am coming to that. These are the things I will teach you here, but not the commercial bank stuff, activity. All right. So it must not deteriorate quickly. It's a very important property or quality that is required for money to serve effectively as a medium of exchange. All right. No. That's a different value. I am coming to value of money. This is a very good point. I am coming to value of money. There is something called value of money. It's a different concept. It has to be computed. 100 rupee note may have different value of money in different times. That's a different story. I am talking about the 100 rupee note itself, the currency. I am not talking about value of money. I am talking about the currency. All right. Next, and a very important function of money after money was invented, which made life simpler, is that money allowed a much simpler unit of account. You can keep your accounts like an accountant keeps the expenses and the revenues coming in a tabular form, in tables. It's very easy to keep the accounts, because now whatever is bought is in terms of money, not 3 bookshelves, 4 shirts, 5 pair of shoes, and nothing is comparable to the other one. You cannot buy, you cannot say 5 pair of shoes was more expensive than 3 tables. You cannot just say that. It's very difficult to compute the value. All right. So now the most important, another important function that it has is that it has simplified the system of accounting. So you can keep your accounts in money, unit of account. So money has an unit of account. With barters, you have so many prices, which are relative prices. Shoes in terms of shirts, shirts in terms of tables, tables in terms of something else. You have so many, but now between any 2 items, there is one price. All right. Suppose there are 4 goods that have been exchanged, there will be 6 barter exchange rates. Am I correct in my mathematics here? There are 4 goods, A, B, C, D are exchanged between them. How many prices are there? I have said 6. Am I correct? Correct? 4 goods, how many prices will be there in a barter system? 6, A to B, A to C, A to D, then B to C, B to D. 7. No, 6 हुआ तो okay, 6 हुआ 6. So for 4 goods, for 4 goods being exchanged in the market, there are 6 relative prices in a barter system. Coming to money, how many prices will be there? 4 goods, 4 prices. Things have become simpler. Now therefore, a system works much better in keeping accounts, in determining prices, in evaluating one against each other, because you have a common unit now, money. ठीक है? So some price which is 50, and some where you paid 70, you clearly know which one is more expensive. Earlier it was very difficult, 3 shirts, 1 table. Which one is more expensive? I don't know. All right. Finally, one more function which became important with Keynes' speculative demand for money, I guess, very important, is that, which we all know, where the money, I told you about money being part of wealth, why this has become important, and monetary economics has picked up many years back now, 50, 60 years back, maybe more, 70 years back. Monetary economics picked it up, money, and often they would slide into a discussion on wealth and relationship to anything, any macro variable. This is the function called store of value. You store your value, that is why it is part of wealth in money. So, you can, Jagdish tomorrow goes out and tells his friends, I have a stock of so much money in my account, I stored it, I do not have it. So, he sounds like he is a rich man, because he stored more value than you have. So, money is used to store value, all right, just like jewelry is used to store value, because it will fetch a good price, good money or income or return in future. So, money is a store of value, although it is a little bit shaky, but it definitely has this function, store of value. Functions as a repository of purchasing power. Purchasing power kya hai? What money buys, the purchasing power of money. Often people refer to money as purchasing power. Repository of purchasing power that money can have, because if you store it today, you can use it tomorrow to buy things. So, the whole idea of savings, the whole idea of speculative demand for money, you put money away on a speculative purpose, you get a better return to use it later. These modern concepts, where different times are coming, some dynamism coming, not a static framework at all, these are, though we discuss them in static framework. We are very much, because of this property of money, a function of money called store of value. You can store value in it. You put money in fixed deposit, classic example, fixed deposit accounts. You store money there to be used 5 years later, 3 years later. Various fixed deposit schemes are available in banks. All right. So, therefore, money is a kind of an asset, people say, monetary asset, money asset is an asset where in which you can store value. Asset is something which is valuable, which you can use later. But remember, as I told you, there are many non-money assets also. Therefore, a question and issue that often comes up is that when people talk about money and it compares money with other forms of assets in wealth, an issue often that comes up is that the issue about liquidity is very important. The issue about liquidity, I should mention this, the issue about liquidity. And people say money is the most liquid form of asset, people say. However, different kinds of money have different liquidity. Liquid means what? The thing most liquid is the currency that is in my pocket. I do not have to even go home to use it. I can readily buy whatever I want given the amount of currency I have. This is the most liquid form. The next most liquid form of money is what I have in an almirah or a desk or a shelf or somewhere at home. Uske baad less liquidity, but if you do a hierarchy from the most liquid to less liquid, least liquid, then it will be the savings accounts. Because in the bank I go, or today with automatic teller machines, I put a card in, get the cash out. After that, then you have these other kinds of accounts like fixed deposit, etc., which takes 1 week, 10 days notice to break it. So, I will get a penalty, I will not earn the interest income, but I can use the cash. Then you have these less liquid assets. I am coming out of money now, less liquid assets like shares and bonds, where I have to approach the broker, the dealer to sell it off. Then comes the jewelry, then the property. So, you can have a degree of liquidity of assets, both money, various kinds of money and various kinds of non-money assets. So, liquidity is a central issue which dictates, which determine how people hold money, and therefore, in what form, like this is amazing stuff, how human beings instinctively decide when they get an income, a salary, how much to keep it in the most liquid form at home, how much to keep in the savings account, how much to part with other forms of assets. Some may go into jewelry, some may go into fixed accounts, fixed deposits, some at a later stage may go into a property, some may go into shares, bonds. And the less liquid form you choose, that means you are saying basically that is really meant for future. I have no need to use them now. So, it is because the degree of confidence, the need, the want that the individual has. So, liquidity becomes a very interesting thing. In fact, one can empirically estimate the liquidity of various kinds of money in an econometric model maybe. How do Indians judge money, how liquid they are? All right, automatic teller machines are new to India. They were not new, only we had to go to the bank, and transaction costs are very high. With automatic teller machine, transaction costs are down. What are transaction costs? When you want to transact something, even to take the money out, there can be transaction costs. Transaction costs may be economic costs, non-economic costs. That I will have to wait till tomorrow morning 10 o'clock the bank to open, and I have to walk 2 miles to go to the bank, is saying there is a transaction cost involved, which may be a psychic cost, which may be a waiting cost, which may be actually money cost that I pay the broker to get my shares sold off. It may involve money cost, it may involve non-money costs. So, liquidity and transaction costs are often associated. If you are putting money in the fixed deposit, there is a high transaction cost, because you get the money quickly. That means, it is very less liquid. That means, it has been your conscious decision, and you know perfectly well with some surety, some probability, that you do not need the money, let the transaction cost be high. But if you need some cash in a very liquid form, because certain things have to be bought immediately, you should not choose a form which is less liquid, you should choose the form which is most liquid. With instant teller machines, it is like having the bank at home. Anytime, 24 hours I can go, provided the machine is working, put my card in, take the money out. All right? Do you understand what I am saying? So, liquidity becomes a central issue when you talk about money, very much a central issue. Now, I come to his issue. There is also a concept of value of money, which is called purchasing power, value of money. There is also this issue called value of money. The value of money is a very different concept. It has nothing to do with liquidity. It has nothing to do with transaction costs involved in our lives, that I have to walk to the bank, wait for the bank to open, pay the dealer, pay the broker to get the shares sold off in a secondary market, nothing of that sort. Value of money in simple terms is that how much money can buy, the purchasing power of money. And you know, a common determinant of value of money is the prices. If there is inflation, prices are going up, the same money can buy less. So, the purchasing power is deteriorating. So, the value of money is falling. It is a very different thing. All right. Whereas, in case of non-money assets, the value of those items are often quite stable, because if there is an inflation, their market prices also start climbing upwards. So, it's like inflation indexed. So, the value does not change much. So, 10 years later, in fact, a property that you bought with 10,000, you may sell it off at 20,000, and inflation may have, prices may have doubled in the economy. So, the value of the property in terms of purchasing power from the money that you get has not gone down. But in case of money, cash, what we call the value of money is uncertain, particularly when you have inflation. All right. So, the value of money goes down. So, let me talk about the value of money and purchasing power. That is where we begin in tomorrow's class. All right. Okay for today.